Keith McGowan here, the Outboard Dad, here to help you have a better boating experience. Today, I'm going to talk again about my used outboard motor buying guide. It is going to be available on Amazon soon, any day now. We're almost putting the finished touches on it, and you'll be able to buy this for $20. And what I'll offer you, if you subscribe to my channel and you comment and you send me an email at keith@outboarddad.com, you buy this for $20 and you send me proof of purchase in an email, and I will give you a free session of counseling on your boat, your motor, maybe an outboard you're buying, maybe a boat that you're buying, and help you have a better boating experience. Today we're continuing on with our rebuild. I told you I wasn't going to bore you through every single piston install, but I discovered something I think you want to see. If you remember, we had one piston that was really low compression. Well, it wasn't really low. It was actually like 90 or 85 if I don't actually remember exactly what it was. I have to watch that video. But this is the one all scarred up, right? It was the worst piston that we had. Well, look at what I noticed as I started to take the pin out. I noticed two things. Number one, not sure if you can see it in the video, but right along here, it has a crack in the piston. Number two, when I move this rod on my wrist pin, it is loose. There's a couple of pieces of the needle bearings starting to come out. So if you can see that little piece, that's just a little piece of the wrist pin. So did we damage the rod? We're going to have to measure one of the other rods to see what the exact size is, and then measure this one. I don't know if I have a small enough dial bore gauge. The other thing we can do is we can put the new needle bearings in it, put the new wrist pin in it without putting it on a piston to start with, clean it up really good, and make sure that it's not worn out in that way. So if you remember, the original owner said it was a knocking noise and was dying to know where that came from. Now we know for sure. Sometimes it's just the piston when it gets scored up. It just makes a knocking sound going in and out, but it also did some damage, cracked the piston, which also opened up our wrist pin where it's held inside that piston a little bit, right? Which makes it start to move, and now it's on the wrist pin itself. So is it just the bearings that went bad, or is our rod bad as well? So let's check it out. We're going to take it out the rest of the way. This is being a real beast to get out of here because it was so overheated with this piston. So we've had to beat the snot out of it to get this wrist pin out. That's a technical term. There we go. Now all those little wrist pins are going to fall out. So here's our roached out piston, and here's our little needle bearings. Right now, did it damage the inside of this? I feel an edge on the inside of this. I have a feeling this rod is no good. We are going to have to find one. Probably can see if I can find one used. I have a few parts guys that I can call and go to. My main man, Clark, I can reach out to him. He's a Mercury guy. See if he's got one of these rods at his house. We can put the other piston in as long as that wrist pin is good. Let's double check it. This is the top one of the ones that had good compression, and you can see we have no play in this whatsoever at all. So we can go ahead and replace this piston, still roached out, but not as severely as this one was, and boy did it make some damage. Now since we knocked it out the rest of the way, you can see the crack in that piston. Very obvious, right? So when it gets cracked like that, bad news. Bad news. Now I'm wondering what got into this. So the more I look at this, I don't see any chips in the rings at all. I'm wondering if a piece of wrist pin came out, because if you look at the bottom skirt of the piston, it's also damaged, as well as the top. And I don't have very many wrist pins, and they're all little pieces. I think this had a wrist pin failure, which is strange, doesn't happen that often. And that wrist pin failure is what caused this motor to go bad. But usually when you see this, it spit a ring, but this one did not spit a ring. The rings are all intact on this piston all the way around. So we didn't spit a ring, we definitely lost those wrist pin bearings. So we're gonna have to get a new rod for this. Like I said, I don't think there's any sense in even measuring this, right? Because when I clean this out, I can feel a ridge. I'm not sure if you can see it or not. You can see some damage on the inside of that. I'll show you the other one that we know is good so you can have a comparison. We'll hold them side by side so you can see. And here's the good one right next to it. And you can see the shininess of the top one and how well formed it is, right? Which is pretty cool to see. I'm gonna put my good one over here. It's still labeled top. Something else we noticed when we pulled this apart. This is why pulling apart and doing a full inspection is really important. I failed to check each rod. I thought I did, but I guess I didn't. Not a big deal. I can find one. It's not going to kill the project. But again, the more thorough you are, the better. So here's a wrist pin from a good piston. When I feel this up and down nice and smooth. Now I'm going to show you the one that we just took out. Big difference, right? You can see the big fat ridges on there. No wonder this is what happened to this motor. Now we know where that knocking noise came from, and this is what happened to this motor. So I'm always happy to find those kind of things. Now the question is, why did that go bad? I'm not really sure. It's kind of hard to tell. I'm sure there's a lot of opinions out there. I'd love to hear what you guys think. If you've seen this happen before, what you feel it comes from. But we're going to have to get, now we have the new piston, new wrist pin, new rings, or new needle bearings, and we're going to have to look up and find a rod for that. So I'm looking for a starboard side rod. Doesn't necessarily have to be. It has a part number, comes right on it. So I'm going to go ahead and see where I can find one of these and get it here. So in the meantime, we're going to put that other piston in and get prepared. And then we'll just have one piston to put in to finish putting this back together. So please like, subscribe, send me any comments that you have, and anything you're looking to discover that's wrong with your outboard motor that I can help you with. Have a great day.